Okay, we live.
No, you're not gonna walk past me and not give me a hug. I'm about to beat you up. Thank you for coming. Okay, there we go.
I said, wait a minute, Shelly got the different look on me. I don't know what she coming. I don't know what she coming in today, but I'm good. I got you up to see that.
It's supposed to be some other people from our squad is supposed to be coming too. Oh, okay. We were talking about this the other night when we had our meeting. Oh, okay. Cool. Hey, watch the movie a couple times.
Oh yeah? You got your comments, questions?
A couple of times. No, not really. I just wanted to see what other people have to say about it.
Did you share it?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
I don't know if you can believe it, Mike.
All right, let's get ready for some grown folk conversations. I'm so excited. Are you ready to play the family? I'm so excited because I've been wanting to do this for a while. I used to do them, life happened, and then we had COVID, and then I kept trying to find the right venue, the right space. It seemed like I couldn't find the right space. And I was like, oh, no one's going to come out. Thank you. I don't know. I don't know who's going to come out. But then they cloned Tyrone came on. And I said, I cannot be in my inbox and harassing my poor husband about talking about it. We've got to have a community talk. And then I was posting on social media, and then everyone was like talking about it. My little post kept going. So I made like a little thing on it to open up the chat. Like,
Oh, the real volume there. Well, I saw a little. Give my baby a round of applause. She did that herself. That's her new commercial.
All right. Welcome to Sacred Opportunity. Present Wrong for Conversation. I'm your host, Kenda, and my partner in life and love and all things positive is Cynthia Powell. That's my husband is over there that is helping set this up.
That's me, my bad.
Are you stuck on the sound, baby?
No, I had the movie playing in the background. So.
Oh, you did? Okay. And so I'm excited to have this conversation. So before we get started, I want everyone to know that we do not argue. This is a no argue zone. We can have healthy discourse and honest and respectful debate. Now, if things start getting too much out of hand, I'm going to do like school. Okay? All right? Because these talks are about coming together to learn from each other and to also to teach each other. And I started these back in, I think, 2008 or 9. I can't remember, it's been so long. I did one really great one with my beautiful sister, Catalina Bird. We did Black in America. We did a review of that for 3 days, and that was amazing. And that's what helped me to decide to start doing more community talk with some fun. So, on to the subject at hand. They clone Tyrone. Social satire, conspiracy theories, are they true? Are they not so true? Everyone had a lot to say about it. People felt a lot about it. And I think that before we start talking about what they done to us, we need to look at the landscape of this film, and then we're going to have our guest that I'm going to introduce next to kick off the movie and the talk about it, because I think that a lot of people were just looking at it as, oh, this was silly, like exploitation. The other people got very triggered by it. But rather than us being triggered, let's take action, be mindful, start taking some ownership over our brilliance and our power, because we have a lot of power. And I think that we don't really know that sometimes. Okay? So, but it's not going to be all happy, because I'm not a happy person. So, I like to have fun. So, I would like to introduce my guest today. We have Mr. Sean Yost. A lot of people from Baltimore. I'm sure you know him from his controversial yet poignant work. And if you would like to share a little bit about who you are and what you do to our audience here as well as online. I know you want to, so it's all good. You go.
I'm born and raised in West Baltimore. I've been in media for more than 30 years. I had a radio show on WBAA. Catalina Bird was one of my current hosts, guest hosts, sat in for me sometimes. I've been a storyteller for a long time in the city. That's why. That's all.
That's all. What about yours? Come on, brother. Come on.
I'm a filmmaker. That's right.
That's right. Come on.
I've done a few things. I'm old, man. I've been around for a while. No, I did a documentary called Eroding History that's been winning awards, and it's going to be playing in London. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm a storyteller from West Baltimore. That's who I am. I mean, and how that manifests and how it plays out is, thank God for that. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you ask me who I am, I'm a storyteller from West Baltimore. I'm Leslie's son. That's it.
Hey, Leslie.
Thank you so much. Okay, cool. And we have another beautiful, and yes, brothers can be beautiful. Melanie Douglas, and she has a museum. It's called the Family Museum. Have you guys heard of it? Okay, well, you're about to hear about it. Would you like to share a little more about
How y'all doing? So I started the Family Arts Museum 2015, and our first show, Baltimore, born and raised West Side as well. And our first show was at the corner of the Laundromat on Howard in Maryland. So what I do is that I look at family as a fine art, home as a curated space, community as gallery, and I think that the ancestral technology that Black people have is really the answer to what the world needs for its problems. So I've been writing about ancestral technology since 2015 and working through that. And just recently got some fellowships to be able to focus on that. But I like this movie, we'll get into it, but it's like, growing up in Baltimore, the ways that we deal with each other and the ways that we love each other and build community, we don't look at it as technology. And so it's easy for somebody else to harvest it, which is what to me this movie is about. It's about harvesting what's obvious to us. And so my museum is about getting us to preserve it, own it, find ways to commodify and make sure we control how it gets out to the world and that we get the benefit from it first.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, shit, come on, y'all get off. And also too, I want to have these conversations as well, because there are powerful and beautiful people that are doing these wonderful things that we don't even know about. So make sure afterwards that you follow both of our guests and you make sure you support them in what they're doing, because it means a lot, not just to them and their families, but to you and your legacy and who you are and what the world is going to see you as, which is power and beauty. Okay? All right. Ashe. So, they cloned Tyrone. Now, I couldn't wait to go see it, and of course, there is Jamie Foxx, and also, we're not gonna talk about, I forgot to say this, no Carly Russell, we're not gonna toss that into the conversation. If you don't know, don't even worry about it, okay? We're not gonna toss that in. We're staying focused on they clone Tyrone for the time being, and we're not gonna get into any other stuff, we're gonna stay focused. But some topics are going to intersect, but I want us to stay very focused on the topic at hand of what on the film. So, when I saw the movie, I couldn't wait to see it. I was excited about it. Jamie Foxx had been missing, if you will, for a couple of months, and then he popped up on the day of the movie, and of course everyone was like, Tyrone, they cloned Tyrone. Jamie's trying to tell you something. Jamie done got cloned, y'all. Look at him. Oh my God, he done got cloned. He done got all light skin and stuff. What's going on? So much more. So I'm going to start with Melania. What was one of the first things that jumped out to you in terms of the clone Tyrone? What were some of the things that you said, wow?
Well, the title, and then in the movie, to me, it was just like, it was every conspiracy theory available and ever continued by Black people since integration. Like, something's on the chicken, something's in the curve, are they cloning people? Are people living below the city? Like, it was every single one. So all the things that are just like, it's like a fabric of all these things that we hear from generation to generation. And it was all right there, but without being in your face. You kind of had to be like, oh, wait, I know they're not talking about, wait a minute, right? And so that part was what jumped out. But just the cloning part, like, in the times that we're in, they cloned Tyrone. Like, we know Tyrone. Like, they cloned Tyrone.
Right, yeah. And the idea of the cloning, just in general, and I think that we have to not take that so literally. Now, I'm not saying that it might not be possible, okay? Because they're making designer babies and so have you, okay? But societal cloning is very real. We call them psych ops, where they give us certain imageries, certain conversations, certain things to make us think and to be in fear or despair and so have you. And to add to that, when you were talking about every conspiracy theory since,
Integration.
integration,
People before integration, but that's another story.
right? When you watch the film, they had mixed time periods throughout the film. Like they're driving 70s cars, listening to I'll Be Sure. I was like, wait a minute, I'll Be Sure. Wait a minute, why is he? And I said, well, maybe he just got an old car and he's just rocking. But then you see flip phones, you see clothes from the 70s, and you see some 80s stuff, and you see these different cars from different eras. And then Yo-Yo is talking about the blockchain. And you're like, what time are we in? And I think that the filmmaker was very genius to show us that this is not one time pointing to that. You said this happened in the 70s, the 80s, the 2000s, and so have you. So one of the things that we need to look at is it's not like, oh my God, it's happening now. It's been happening. And so as we continue to talk about what's happening to us, and how can we start making things happen for us, okay? Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
What I found interesting as well is that they seem to show where this compound H, as they call it, if you remember, there was a compound H was found in various areas that are very prominent in the Black community. When you saw them tracking at the trap house, at the cone stove, at the church, what were your thoughts based upon that, the symbolism with that?
So, what I would say is that, so we're speaking about, I think, during or the undercurrent of the whole conversation is the plausibility of whether or not this could happen, or does it happen? Is it happening? So this is what I would offer. Like I said, I'm from West Baltimore. I grew up near Montgomery Mall, off of West Falls Parkway. And when I was in high school, I would go up to Hamlin Park. And on the hill there on Hamlin, you can look over much of the city, east and west, right? And as you look to the left from Hamlin, you see Johns Hopkins, right? When I was in high school, which is in the 80s, I used to look at Hopkins and I said, man, that looks like a whole city. So I started calling Hopkins City. That was back when I was a teenager. So fast forward to almost 40 years, imagine the power of Hopkins. The University of Johns Hopkins University has an endowment of $20 billion. The endowment, that's not the budget, that's the endowment. The total budget of Morgan State University is only $300 million. Now, so if you want to talk about the possibility of an underground city, we have an overground city in Baltimore right now, and everybody in this building knows or has heard about Black people being experimented, and we had what just happened with Kathleen Berger, and we had so anybody that is debating the plausibility of whether or not this could or couldn't happen, you missed the boat. Because we've lived this. And the film is beautifully made and it's funny, but what's underneath of it is, I think, is really the point where we need to rally around. Because we can't rally around art, we can't rally around nothing. So that's what I thought about. I mean, I immediately thought about Hopkins City. You know.
Yeah, so another thing that we as the melanated people need to understand is that in our urban settings, there's always at least two major teaching hospitals. In Baltimore, we have John Hopkins on the east side, and on the west side, we have University of Maryland. And I don't know about anyone that may be watching, but I'm sure here, people here. How many people here, raise hands, if you were told, don't go to John Hopkins? How many people? They're going to research on you, right? So again, but how do we then, if we are saying that these points are valid, then what are some of the things that we should do? Should we start creating our own hospitals? But where and how? Are we going to get doctors that were trained from John Hopkins University, or go ahead?
Well, I think that we could start with models that have worked with us before. And some of those models that have worked with us before are herbalism, natural healing, being in spiritual communities, being within the community, dancing, drumming. Like we a lot of times, you know, we say, well, what would it take for us to create what is? But what is not aligned with who we are.
Come on.
So why do we want to create and spend our resources to create a dynamic that has already been proven to oppress us? Because not only are there always two teaching hospitals, there are always at least two mechanisms in place that tie every family to those teaching hospitals. One of them you can't avoid, like lead or the water. The other one, there becomes a social or a economic conditions that can easily put you in some way, shape, or form, and usually it's drugs. So either you're addicted, you pushing, you're selling, or you know someone who is. There's not one family that can say, we are not touched by lead, by what's in the water, or by what people are addicted to. And those three conditions automatically tie every family to these two teaching hospitals. Now, why is it important that they're teaching hospitals? Because if you're economically challenged, and the person in your family is economically challenged, and they're on drugs, or they're having conditions with lead or the water, they easily can be tested on because now they need.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So I'm not interested in creating our own John Hopkins. I'm more interested in creating a network of herbalists and training how we have herbs, how we have access to them. When somebody is depressed, do we need to have a drum circle around them? Do we need to, do we need to gather? Do we need to go back to quilting? Like what are the things that we actually have done that got us through the roughest of wherever we've been that still sustain who we are? I'm more interested in that.
Good, thank you. I appreciate that point. And that goes to as well other symbolism as well. Now, I'm a bit of a metaphysician. I like the metaphysical things. I'm a little spiritual girl. So I was interested in the colors that the people they wore. And when we look at the principal characters, Yo-Yo, of course, we love her, Yo-Yo. And I noticed that we never learned her true name. She was called Yo-Yo. And I found it interesting that they named her Yo-Yo because I felt that it was showing that she was up and down because she looked like she was conscious and aware of certain things, but because of where she found herself, she had to go into survival mode, like many of us do. And I sparked a debate online with this statement. I said that I found it interesting that we didn't see any clones of Yo-Yo. We saw the clones of the two principal male characters. And there was a scene where they were being chased by people that were programmed. Now, before I go to that, did you notice, Sean, I asked you this question, and then I'm gonna go back to my point. I saw where they stated that the music, they had a Morse code underneath it in the film. So, of course, we have been saying for years, the music is making us go crazy. The music is low vibration, it's making us go a certain way. So, Sean, do you think that the music is really that much of a big deal to clone or to program us?
You mean in real life?
In real life, yes.
Well, I mean, for me, music is everything.
Mhm.
And I think for most Black people, music is, well, I'll put it like this. Could you imagine life without music? Like, I don't mean some music, I mean no music.
No way.
Black people wouldn't survive without music. I don't think. If we didn't have any music, we wouldn't sing to each other maybe, but I mean, if we could you imagine life without music? So that's how I would answer that question. I mean, music is literally like blood, life, air, you know. I was posting online, I got challenged to post my 10 favorite albums in 10 days. The reaction that people had to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Songs of Kid Life, and Prince Dirty Mind. I mean, these are our, what you talk about, ancestral genes. A lot of, I mean, you know, Prince, Stevie Wonder, Miles Davis, these are our gods, you know, Phyllis Hyman. So yes, if there's any tool that you can utilize to try to control us or lift us up or tear us down or whatever, I think music is one. I mean, when you think about trap music, when you think about ratchet music, I mean, how can you not, I mean, when you hear ratch, it's like, wow. I mean, you know, I grew up with hip hop. We celebrate 50 years of hip hop, right?
Mhm.
It's 50, right?
Yes, correct.
Think about where we've gone with the music in 50 years.
Yeah.
And where we are now, and how it's, I mean, just listen to some of them.
Now, I will say a point, and you are correct. I think that music is vital for people in general, for humanity. But for Black people, we love rhythm, we love music, we love drums, the sounds that move us. But are you talking about the beats or the words? Because I've heard some songs from back in the day where they were singing some really outrageous things.
Rap has been around for over 100 years. I mean, when you talk about Bessie Smith and Ma Rainey
Right.
and those records back then, of course, we've always had ratchet music,
Mhm.
right? Because it triggers something in us that some of us like. You know what I'm saying? I'm pointing it out, right? I love Megan Thee Stallion. I love Megan Thee Stallion. So I'm not tripping like, you know, I'm above that. I'm just simply saying that music can be used. Music triggers certain frequencies in us, right?
Yes.
And those frequencies can be manipulated, I think. You know, that's all I'm saying. I mean, music. We talk about rhythm. There was a theologian, a cat named Glover. I can't remember his first name, but when he did his thesis initially, his dissertation rather, he said that in the beginning was the rhythm, and the rhythm is God.
I like that.
So when you think about the universe, there is a rhythm in the universe. universe. And it's no coincidence that Black people are inherently more rhythmic than any other people on the face of the earth. So, yeah, that's the secret ingredient, you know. So yes, rhythm, music, words, all of it. I mean, you know, high to low. It's our vibration.
I can take that. Okay, yeah. Good answer. Thank you. So back to Missy Yo-Yo. Now, notice she had on a lot of orange and a lot of yellow. And to me, that showed that she was really living in her sacral and her solar plexus, but they were overactivated. And I think that a lot of us, male and female, we sometimes overstimulate those aspects of ourselves for survival. She was a lady of the night. So she's probably living in her sacral a little more than others. But it also gave her the opportunity to also tap in and see and feel what the post, for lack of a better word, for the post of the people. Like she shared, she learned about the blockchain, things like that. And I think that the woman, especially a Black woman, is sometimes seen or viewed as the least, not that valuable, not that powerful by the larger society. However, we have a lot of power and engine for us to create change. And if you notice throughout the whole film, you know, she was trying to tell them, look y'all, we gotta go here. We gotta do, man, they cloning people, y'all see? They're like, man, get out my face. And sometimes we as Black women, we feel like we're that voice that is quote unquote annoying, that's speaking the truth or trying to shed light. You know, and we were like, oh, shut up, be quiet. I don't want to hear from you right now. You're too loud, you're too bold, you're too this. But when they were being chased by the mob and the Kiefer Sutherland's character, I believe his character's name was Nixon. He said the trigger word and everyone, stop. And then I know I said, well, Yo-Yo don't seem affected. What's going on? She's like, and I was like, wait a minute. So they didn't clone Yo-Yo? Was it that she couldn't be cloned or what? And then he told her, you know, well, you know, you come at dime a dozen. You know, I'm not gonna waste money to clone you. I tend to think that because women by nature are considered unruly, unpredictable, they weren't quite sure what a clone woman would be. That's my theory. I know people want to argue. We can fight later.
Mitochondrial DNA might not be, as what you said, might not be able to be as predictable. Because mitochondrial DNA has its roots in the beginning before time, you know what I mean? And it has so much potency and potential, and it might just be that consciousness. So I think that they didn't want to tackle that. And I noticed, I have a question at the end of the movie, sorry. I'm interjecting. Yeah. But I'll stop. I'll just say, at the end of the movie, I kept waiting. I said, well, why do I see all these male clones when they were opening up the shafts? But at the end, I saw that there were some naked females coming out of the underground. Yeah, small amount.
Yeah, there were some.
Right.
Yeah. No, but write that down because we want to come back to that. That's a good point. You gotta smash me. I love you, my Gemini sister. But that's the point. Now, that is not to say that the masculine is not valuable because we need you to procreate, right? You have a special coding and some DNA from your mama and your daddy that we need to make these babies. But I found it very interesting that when they were giving them the code word, and then he told Fontaine, shoot her. It was like, she was like, stop, stop. It was like, and then she said, kill yourself, or whatever. And she was just horrified. And it's almost like the idea of women seeing their men either killing each other or themselves. You know, what are we to do? And so I want to come to you to ask about this question, but conversely, we never saw a father. Fontaine's father was not even mentioned. And his mother was actually a speaker, a recording, just saying words over and over again. And so I said, so are they trying to say that society feels that women will either be, are considered hoes, tricks, or whatever, or despondent and checked out moms? In these settings, how often do mothers check out? So what is your thinking on the imagery of yo-yo and the women, or the makeup?
Well, I think it was aligned with some of the marketing that's trying to be placed on how we get women to view themselves right now. And so one of the marketing is that Women from a Dime a Dozen. That's a huge part of the marketing program. And what it does is that it gets women to, one, devalue who they are, and then in a very covert way, gets men to devalue them as well, right? So that construct in itself does a break in the family structure, because it puts you like, oh, well, I have to do whatever I need to do so that I'm not a dime a dozen. And then it puts him like, well, no matter what she does, she can be replaced. And as long as there's a space of each other being replaced, you lose humanity. Mm-hmm. And it's a marketing scheme, right? So I think it's a commentary on the marketing that's done to us. And also, so if you can have what is extremely valuable devalue itself inside of a community, you change the bar. Mm-hmm. So if the woman devalues her place and she feels she is replaceable, even though she's not, because they still haven't found another set of cells like Henrietta Lacks. I'm just gonna put that out there. They still haven't found that. They still haven't found any other more potent cell than mitochondrial E. They still had it, which is a Black woman. Mm-hmm. So they still haven't, and none of what they say can be replaced has been replaced. That's an interesting thing. But as long as you think you can be replaced, you will dispose of yourself. So what's the benefit of you disposing of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get into a debate about some of the things I want to say. I'm just saying this is just a benefit. If you are disposing of yourself and you put yourself in a situation where you are constantly allowing your mitochondrial cells to be available to a clinic, right? So if you are prostituting or you're dealing with, dealing with a lot of ways that have to push you in that, you may have to deal with abortion. You may have to deal with more extra testing. You may have to people have more access to your cervix. People have more access to your uterus. They have more access to aborted stem cells, right? Come on. So you are, and this is not, I have no interest in debating on what you should do. All I'm saying, we're talking about devaluing. If you devalue what you give out, then you will give it out more freely. So if you devalue it, you won't say, let me get off the drugs. You won't say, let me eat something better. You won't say, let me get some rest. Because you're taught that it can be replaced. So if a woman is constantly replaceable, then she's going to deal totally different with the men. Completely different. And if she's replaceable, nobody's going to listen to her. Now, here's the thing with the chakras and the sacral chakra. The way I've always seen the chakras is that the heart, everything spins around the heart. So if you take that sacral chakra and you spin it, it leads directly to the throat. Right? It's going to lead you, you're going to lead to your throat, you're going to lead to your third eye. It's going to come up here, right? So the woman actually, even in her sacral space, has insight, intuition, and wisdom that she's going to, from her heart and from her voice, going to want to communicate. But as long as you have everybody saying, you know, they crazy, they always tripping. I mean, these hoes, they always fucking tripping, they doing this, they doing, I mean, you know.
Yeah, right.
And then you tell women to tell their sons, I don't know, don't trust these women. Don't trust them, I don't trust them, I don't have no friends, I don't trust them. You're basically setting up a marketing system
You better
that
come on.
totally demotes your oracle system. And once your oracle system is gone, what do you do as a community? So that's the way I see it.
You better throw down that mic, girl. Come on. No, but that's true. At the end of the day, we have our hand in cloning too, whether you realize it or not.
I want to just say one last thing. We are not going, it is going to be harder to clone us, and we would have to be structured to be accessible versus be cloned. I don't think they're interested in cloning, they're interested in being accessible. We already have what they want, reproduction, mitochondrial DNA, melanin, and ways to reproduce it. We have that. So as long as they have access, they don't need to clone it, but they have to position us to give it access to you. So that's what
I love that. That's very genius, because when we saw the underground lab, we did see some women in there, and this woman had her eyes pressed wide open, and the voice kept saying, "You can be beautiful. You can be beautiful. You can be beautiful." I am beautiful. What about I can? Excuse me. You know, so again, even though I may say that based on the film, the women were not cloned, but they were programmed, which is still a form of cloning, I feel. And of course, they show the perm or whatever. I judge no one that has their hair perm or straight. I really don't care. I'm worried about what's underneath, because I don't have people that have natural hair and locks that are out their African mind. So, no, I'm just saying it's true. So I'm not gonna get off on it. These black women, it shouldn't be having no permanent hair. But what I will say is that the programming is really a form of cloning. That's Mr. Young. Back to you. No problem. So another scene that I thought was interesting was in the church, where the trio had gone to church and they were having a regular service, and then they started doing back the thing up, dancing and shaking. So do you think that there was something wrong with churches maybe shifting the way that they worship, where they're making fun of the black church? What do you think about that?
So what I thought was interesting about that scene was when they actually started into the dancing part. Right? At the very beginning of it, when they were kind of standing up and kind of getting in position, for me it was reminiscent of a scene from Beloved. When there's a part where the Queen Mother, I can't remember her name, I remember the actress, she should have won an Academy Award for her performance, but she said she's speaking to her people. She's a preacher, right? And she's speaking to her people and saying, women, do this, men do this, and they're basically kind of feeling their bodies, like the movement in their bodies. They're dealing with the movement of their bodies, and they're moving in almost a robotic way, right? But it's more of a way that's rooted in kind of like where we came from, like our origins, right? And so at first in Tyrone, when they first stand up, I saw them moving like that. So that's what resonated for me. And then it kind of evolved into, you know, whatever they was doing.
They were doing,
Twerking and all that, you know.
but twerking is very African.
Okay.
No, it is.
I'm not,
And I mean,
like, all right.
and if I'm not mistaken, I have some people that I have been told in the faith of Ifa that you greet is you with the booty. Am I right? Am I right? Okay. So, and also too, just dancing and shaking also, it moves your blood. It helps to clear your root chakra and other things. And I really think that they were making fun or jest of our African or cultural traditions that we have had people to
Well,
colonize.
I would suggest also, and I speak as a Christian man who also practices traditional African spirituality, embraces a lot of different other spiritual beliefs and understandings, right? What I see too often now is that Christian faith, because of how it's been manipulated and how it's manipulated our community, it's too easy to degrade it.
Right.
The simplest thing to do is to have some black people jumping around in church and say, "Oh, look at them! You know, they're making fools of themselves. They're brainwashed. They're this, they're that." And that's a stereotype that becomes more and more pervasive. And without getting into spirituality or without getting into the legitimacy of the Christian faith, that's, you know, faith is what it is, right? But I think that they were making fun of that because it's an easy thing to make fun of.
Right.
You know, people falling out in church and doing, you know, they drinking grape juice, and I mean, it was wild, you know. So I didn't see them degrading the African spiritual aspect as much as the Christian spiritual aspect.
I got you. Yeah, I would agree. I just think that everything has value. Value. Church has value.
Of course it does.
You know, and I hope that as we continue growing and healing, that we, you know, and include, you know, dancing again. And I mean the real, like, and doing trance work when people catch the spirit, they're in trance. They, you know, and so we have to kind of stop saying, well, that's wrong or that's right, but that's a separate subject, but I thought that was interesting.
If we're looking for God, that's right.
Yeah, most definitely.
So
Okay, cool.
how you get there is different.
That's how I feel, and I think that we, as the people, we sometimes get very caught up in who's Christian, who's not, who is doing that. I think that this film shows that no matter what, no matter how quote unquote low you are on the totem pole, that you can create change, right? So I'm gonna ask one more question to you both, and then I'm gonna give the people in attendance an opportunity to ask us some questions or share some comments. And you will see that there are some notepads, so if you have some thoughts, you can jot them down in case you forgot or not, and because we want to hear from you too, the two-way talk. Now, speaking of the heart, I noticed that Fontaine had on green and Slick Charles, right? Slick Charles, he had on a lot of purple, which I thought was very interesting because he was almost like the comic, the funny guy, but he was speaking a lot of truth. So, do you think that was done on purpose to show Fontaine really being like he had to go to his heart? Simply because after he figured out he had been cloned, everything was going on, this white man was like, so what you gonna do about it? You know, you can either die or you go home and act like this never happened. And again, most of us are cloned into, we see things, we get upset, and we go home. We get upset, we protest, we may march, and then we go home. And it was not until he figured out that his mother was not even real, and he cried. And I think that part of the healing that our community needs is for men to be able to actually feel and express. And I wanted to ask you how you feel about that.
So, me personally, the two things I want to say about the church scene really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I love how they made it clear that whether it's the church or the club, everything is just out of context.
Aha.
Right? So whether it's grape juice or it's liquor, we all out of context. In any traditional spiritual, any approach of African spirituality or our traditions, mind you, there has not been any revolution that has been won by Black people without us at the core of who we are and our spirituality. We got to deal with that. That's
Yeah.
There's not been one, that's been one. And so, but we center it, right? But in those contexts, none of those things, all of it is a part of who we are. We're gonna shake our hips, we're gonna have something to drink, there's gonna be the spirits, there's gonna be all of that. It's just out of context. And so even in your own spiritual space, in that film, it's showing you still out of context. Is twerking and shaking your behind wrong to the drums? It's how we get here. I don't know how y'all got. I know how I got here. I know how my baby got here. It required this. So, you know what I'm saying? So they were there. The hips were present and they were shaking. So we know how we got here, right? So it's not going to be out of context. So what it is to me, what it was kind of making fun of, but it was also looking at how we bastardize or allow the bastardization of what is actually very natural and actually a part of who we are and an innate of how we procreate and how we exist. Like, we doing what humans do. We surviving and creating more humans. Okay, so that's one. So that, as far as the men feeling part, I think the men in the film, what you realize how heightened their heart chakras were, because when they found out Yo-Yo was missing,
Come on now.
let's be real,
Yes.
okay? It wasn't just when he found out that his mom was a tape recorder, because I think that happened after. Did that happen? I can't remember exactly.
I think that he found out after he was like, Mom, and he busted.
So there was like a sequence of events. Somewhere along in that sequence of events, they realized the women that were important to them were missing. Boom! So this is another marketing scheme that I'm not with. This idea that our men don't feel and that our men don't deeply connect to who they are. Any partner I've had, like my dating person, they have had more information about my own cycle. They know exactly how my emotions are running based on, they be like, you know what, for real, we might need to wait a week on talk about that thing. Well, why do you think that? They say, well, have you looked at the calendar? Because I know what time it is. So we get this thing about men as if they don't have like this like deep emotional connection to us. And that they don't have this capacity for who we are. But they actually do. And even in the space of thinking that they're not listening, they were really listening. Because the moment they found out that Yo-Yo was gone, everything she said, they acted on. Yo-Yo did not have to be present for them to act on what she said, which let me know that those men were actively listening to that woman. How they showed it and how we perceive how they're listened might be very different than the reality of are they listening or not.
You just dropped the word.
And I'm just saying.
No, you just dropped the word because Because I mean, I've had some really great ones, husbands, and I had not so conscious men. And so I think that is something that we need to teach our sons how to be.
We need to teach it, but to our sons, okay. We also need to shift the lens that we look at men through. Right? We need to have different education on how we perceive how men respond in certain situations. We have sometimes we are using a lens. My daughter said something last night that was so powerful. She said, I can only look at you through the lens of now.
Oh my
And
God,
I said,
little goddess.
I'm raising you right. She's a goddess. Okay?
Yes.
So, but what she's saying is like, we have a lens of now that is clouding the way how men see us and how we see how they see us. Men listen to us. They pay attention to us. They have notes on us. They have pure documentation. Even the ones who are fucked up, because they have enough documentation to know how to get you in a trick bag. It's still documentation. I'm just keeping it 100. If they can play you, they done studied you.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? So the question is, are you going to deal with the one that's going to study you for the reason to uplift you, or to start to study you because he's trying to play you? They all study us. Men study us. So the same way they're buying into this thing, women can be replaced. We're buying into this thing that men are these reckless creatures that only need to be screwed and fed, and that's just not true.
Thank you,
Right.
girl. Come
So
on, y'all.
I'm just saying,
That's real.
so if we look at this film as like a reflection of that, and we look at how men showed up, when they found out the women were gone, the women that they were listening to, the women that they were trying to nurture, he spent that whole movie trying to feed his mother.
Yes.
That's a very important thing to look at. His day did not start until he tried to feed and check in on his mother and respected her space because he never opened that door. So, but when they found out that she was a farce and Yo-Yo was gone, the whole community rose. So what are we talking about?
Come on.
That's what men do. I'm technically a single mother, but my child is raised by a community of people that are active men. That's not their child. She is well taken care of. They're not my man. I'm not dealing with that, but she has uncles and other aunties and other families, and the way they actively participate in her care, even from a distance, is a very different lens of how to look at men. So yes, we need to teach our sons, but we need to have deeper conversations with each other about how we are allowing ourselves to say what the narrative of men is and what it actually can be, and men need to have a revisit in how they're having their narrative about us, and then we need to get back together and have another conversation.
I totally agree. I'm 120% in agreement and 10 toes down. That's one of the things that he and I do with our company. We are committed to healing the partnerships because we need each other. We need each other. It's a sacred opportunity when you connect with another human being. It's a sacred opportunity all the time. Okay, one last question, and then we are going to the floor. Now, even though we have all talked about, the government doing it, something going on in church, what I really liked was at the end of it all, it was spontaneous.
Yeah.
It was spontaneous. Okay? When they got chased from the club, the strong arm man was a version of Fontaine. I think his name was Chester. Right. And then when they finally got to the end, he goes in there and he sees an old version of himself. God damn. That's what I'm gonna look like at 8. So, is it safe to say that we are our own worst enemy? Now, before you say, granted, we have a lot of different things that come to challenge us. But I think it was very important to notice that after Fontaine, he recognized that the women were gone, that he cared about were gone. And then when he went to confront, he got the opposition. And I see that as the ego that wants to keep us where we are. And there are a lot of times when we can get to that final place, and it's like that big test. And I think that all of us have that every day when we know what's going on in the system, at work, or whatever. And I find it very interesting that they had a version of him that he had to fight and to get past, to go to his former self and to kill the old story and free himself. And I think that while we get very caught up into the glamour, not glamour, but the movie, the film, the cinematography, the nuances, I think that's a very important point that a lot of people are really afraid to touch. We can talk about integration, which is a very big argument that people feel that we, as Black people, when we got integrated, it kind of screwed up a lot of things. But I think that it begins here. And I think that that's a point that we have got to start owning, that we are our own hero in a lot of these things. It begins as a personal journey that spreads out to the collective. Because once he got hold of it, he talked to Slip. They got together, they talked to a homeboy, and y'all like, man, you crazy, but they went ahead and did it anyway. So when you have that awakening, do not be afraid to at least talk to one person, because you may be changing the landscape of your whole community, right? Okay? Okay. So, y'all got questions and comments? Y'all ready? Okay. You can come up close, get on the mic.
Told you I was gonna make it, Sean, and check that on Facebook. But anyway, I have a question concerning the boy that was always, that came through, I think that was like the opening scene.
Oh,
He
yes.
said spontaneous home. He was riding his bike, he used to drink the Capri Sun, talk about SpongeBob all the time. What do you think he symbolized in that movie?
I'll jump on that. The wonder of the child, the hope of a child. Because I think that was the only person that he was somewhat kind to initially. And they did say that that was his brother, but I think it was the symbolism of child.
No, grab him,
Oh, okay,
I'll carry it.
okay. All right, anyone else have a question or comment?
My comment is,
You gotta talk up.
I was looking at, how, eldership in the community was overlooked, and the wino guy, he had all the keys, he had all the answers, but nobody ever went to him to ask. You know, he told him where to find this, where to go. He said, "What do you look at when you want something? You know, go there, go there." But nobody really paid any attention to him. They just looked at him as just being an alcoholic, you know, guy. He always tell the guy when they did the scratch up, "You're not gonna win." You know what I mean? He was just telling them all of these things. You know,
That's
I
true.
just thought that was real interesting. He was overlooked throughout the movie.
Good point. Hey, babe, you got any comments or something? You ain't saying nothing the whole night. You good?
No, let everybody speak.
Okay, who's next? Oh, brother back.
Peace, everyone.
Please.
Isn't it wonderful that we have a moment to just sit back and consider how we feel about a piece of, about a piece of art, I think this is wonderful. I gotta get out of here. I just wanted to make sure I came through and see y'all lovely black faces though.
Thank you.
My observation is, really toward the end. Those of you who know me know I'm a big picture. Towards the end, when you're talking about when the young replicated Fontaine meets the OG.
Mhm.
There's a very important piece that I think that it was saying, whether, Spirit was saying through the piece, right? About how the inflexibility of our OGs and our traditionalists,
Wow.
the fear that our OGs and our traditionalists are still holding on to, that won't let them compromise with the young replicants, and the way that they look down on the young replicants because of the broken DNA, if you will, that they're exhibiting, right? I would say it's one of the huge roots that's kind of, it's almost like an invisible wall that we are not being able to pass in our community. And until we bridge that gap, stop throwing old folks away, and old folks stop throwing young folks away,
Okay.
we're gonna end the same way this movie ended, with a bunch of replicants out there on their own now because they broke the root.
Good. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
I wanted to talk about one point change I need to see. I think the whole movie really, when we talk about cloning, I'm sorry, forgive me. The whole movie is talking about cloning. It's really a mere reflection of ourselves. And the point that you brought up at the beginning, talking about the layers in this, right? Because this wasn't just about a time period, because you saw all the things from different time periods incorporated in there. And that this is about us as a community, right? The intentionality of everything. There wasn't any mockery of anything. This was showing us ourselves and the very deliberateness of it, all the things that have been impacting us for generations upon generations, right? And if we don't address those things, what do we end up looking like as a community? So when you go back to the old OG, it was one time, they had a system of values despite how they showed up.
Right.
Well, if you don't deal with that, with what that looked like then what does it become ultimately? And for the woman, even for Yo-Yo, and the mother, if we don't deal with those generational things, what do we end up looking like as a community? And so it's the devaluation of us as a community ultimately, remembering that when he goes from, when he gets kidnapped, and he looks back in the truck and he sees the Jews. Well, these are the same people where he just discovered they were putting something in the food at the restaurant, right?
Right.
So it's infiltrating our community, and they've inculcated everything within our communities. So all of it's affecting us, and the demoralization of us is what gives them access to us.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, what about what Kenda was saying as far as like the with the elders, and then also like the representation of the young boys, so this intergenerational. Like I saw that intergenerational piece. So the way the man in the middle was very concerned about, took time to take care of who this young boy was, right? So that's an acknowledgement of trying to mend a cycle, and I see a lot of people do that. People who didn't have strong families be the main ones who want a strong family. People who didn't have a strong relationship with their mom or dad be the main ones that are trying to have it. And then, so you see this kind of try to mend it. And what I love what you're saying, that a lot of the answers, from what I heard from what you're saying, is actually, it's like right there. Like, it doesn't even have to be like this, go farther and deeper beyond, how do we don't need to have a study group okay? We don't need another study on it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we don't need another study on it. Is it as simple as being more flexible intergenerationally? How do we just do that? Is it as simple as allowing more room for play? Allowing more, particularly, with intergenerational play with young men, young boys, young women, like women and young girls, like how do we have this spirit of care? Is it, and I think there's some things in the movie that Asher was getting to some answers. Is it as simple as when you realize the women are gone, that you activate and you make it happen? Do they have to be gone? You know what I'm saying? If they are not gone, do we leave space for them to do it the way they do it? They won't do it the way they do it. So, there's, because that's another thing. They did it the way they did it, right? So we might have, the way Yo-Yo was going about it was a different method, right? But all methods were tried. She did all the research. She had the package. She had everything they needed though, so it was real. So it's not that, well, the way she did it didn't work. No, the way she did it gave them what they needed to do, what they did, right? So how do we just put in place some simple things? Maybe we do need to go home more. Maybe it is. Maybe when we go to the protest, maybe we do just go home. Maybe we stay home. Maybe we make our house what we really want the world to be. I'm more interested in having a household than actually, how many of our leaders have given up their houses and saving the world? And what has that left their children to be? So there's certain things that I think it's just right, it's right there, and understanding that the answers are there and that we don't have to look out. That when she was having the eyes open and it's like, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. To me, that was another deep message in the movie because it kept this constant state of looking outside of yourself for your affirmation and your answers. And it was like this slight thing that everywhere you could see, everybody was looking beyond themselves for their affirmation and their answers. And it's through the whole movie. Even when he meets himself as an older person, there's even though this is the enemy, he's still seeing it outside of himself. Right. And it's like you see these things. So how do we take it, and take those serious levels and then have fun with it, right? How do we apply it and enjoy applying it, in the most simplest ways? Maybe it isn't like a huge revolutionary thing. It's just a commitment to be better and how much I go visit, one of my older mentors, or how much I spend time with people, or how much I spend time, what do I do in my own house? So it doesn't have to be this major revolution thing. It can be this very small collective acts that are happening right in the home that lead to us all collectively being better. And I think that was a part of that.
That was an excellent point. And I feel that, yes, we need to work together. But I think that we need to definitely start with the man in the mirror. We have to. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, real quick.
Real quick.
Just as far as that intergenerational piece, what Changa was saying about the flexibility of the OG. The reality is, in my circles that I operate, I'm the OG. I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that space where I'm the oldest of the people that I interact with. And what I'm discovering is, even though I haven't gotten to the space of where my mentors are, I'm willing to be more expansive as far as listening, as far as listening to women in particular, right? I'm willing to be more expansive in shrinking ego, right? Which allows me to listen more. And I think that what I'm saying is, like Changa, myself, and others around our age range, hopefully maybe there's a shift that's happening where as we begin to evolve into being those OGs or being those mentors, maybe there will be less inflexibility and it will only be for our own evolution.
That's a good point, simply because we are the generation of hip hop. So I think that we may be the light, hopefully. Okay.
I say amen.
Amen. My brother.
Okay, so 2 points. The first is the conscious and the unconscious.
Mhm.
So there's a scene in the movie where the lady was reading the guy, and all he wants to do is be hard. All he wants to do is be hard, and he has no outlook on the community. And he tells her in return, was you created to be a prostitute? And she says, well, yeah, that's what I am, you know, and then she reads the point of all the things that she wanted to be, but she settled for this. He also settled for that.
Mhm.
All right. So the point is, what are we settling for within each other? And how do we project about each other? We project from the female perspective the worst in the man, and from the male perspective the worst in the woman. That has to change. The second point is on the reality of the fact that in our culture today, we have all kinds of aromatase enzymes that are being planted in food, in the water, in the substances that we consume on a daily basis, and they are affecting us
Yeah.
internally. And we acting like it don't matter. It is what it is. But in reality, they put it on screen that they are putting stuff in the food, putting stuff in the water, putting stuff all over in the air that we breathe. And we acting like, so what? But it's affecting us. So what are we going to do about it? That's the end of the story. What are we going to do about it? You know, are we going to start detoxing the way that we used to? Are we going to, determine what kind of food we're going to eat, what kind of food we're not going to eat, what water we're going to drink? We just going to go with the flow.
Yeah, I definitely, I think that, again, they told us that these cities and these towns, that town, just like Baltimore, LA, Philly, Chicago, wherever is created and set up for us to not to eat the proper foods, to have the access. But we are a very wise and educated people, period. Even if we say, oh, Joey ain't that smart, he didn't go to the best school, he got a $800 phone that could get him on any website to do some type of research. So we've got to stop saying that we don't have a choice. And we have to go out and start teaching them and sharing them. I think that's a big thing. All right, is there anyone else that has any questions or comments?
One more scene about that comes back to my mind when Fontaine was absolutely adamant that he was going down there and fuck something up.
Yes.
Right? He was getting the elevator no matter what, right?
Yeah.
But a lot was going on there. He had the presence of mind to say, because I look at Jamie Foxx's character as in between him and the OG, right?
Yeah.
Pivotal piece. He understood, he had humility to say, I need you in that moment. And when, I don't know about y'all, but when I'm in warrior mode, I don't need nobody. I'm good. I'm going to be gone. Hit the button, right? But in that moment, this character had that presence of mind to be like, I'm definitely going 100%, and I need you. and was willing to have that talk. But it was the sister being convinced and coming on that sealed it, that it was definitely gonna be 3. It wasn't gonna be 2. It was definitely gonna be 3. And I think that there's a lot to unpack just right in that little moment. Because we don't have a collective mindset. You think about the closest person to you, and you tell me how much money, how much business y'all have done together in the last 30 days. We don't have a collective mindset. We might be headed that way, right? Most of us, even the mates, we don't even do business. She got an LLC, I got my LLC. We don't even do business with our mate that's in the bed with us. And all of this love and whatnot, I love these people, I love y'all, but we not passing on whoa back and forth, then we're not going to no new level, right? And so that idea, that is what came up for me in that little scene right there. That it was like it took some nudging, but underneath everything, it was we're all going down here. We're all going down here. And if you watch how they shot the scene, there was a lot of empty space right there. Just waiting and looking like, you over it yet? You ready to go forward? Okay, let's go. So I just thought that was a great little nugget. No, I really do have to go.
Thank you so much. Okay, does anyone?
Yes, I'll say something. I'm freezing though right now, so. My mind is this right now. Okay.
No.
Hi everyone, good evening. I am so grateful to hear all of this outpouring of critical thinking and awareness in regards to this particular film and also our history as Africans in America. And the one thing that I do want to acknowledge the little boy. He was very pivotal for me. And I do feel he was that light of a child. The other aspect, or to add on to that, the light of a child doesn't hang on to things. Have you noticed? They don't cling. They see things indiscriminately. And he was telling a story. There was a point where what's his name again? Fontaine, TYRONE Fontaine, a star. Okay, I thought he was an image of a star too. But there was a time when the little boy, when Fontaine had that awakening that his mother was a recording, right? And he broke down, he shed some tears, which was a beautiful thing of release for him to realize, oh my gosh, all this time I've been talking to a reporter, all this time, I've been trying to feed a reporter, no, this can't be real, my life is not real. But the little boy came and started making a joke about it, his tears. Man, you crying? Man, there was an episode on SpongeBob when they were crying, everybody was like, wham, wham. I thought that was so pivotal because it was reminding Fontaine that it is okay. It helped him to let go in that moment and play, right? To be, just to let that situation, whatever it was that was holding him down, he didn't allow it to be an anchor. That child reminded him to be free, let go. And let's squirt each other with juice pouches.
Yes.
But what I was referring to when I said Fontaine was a star, he was remembering himself throughout the entire movie, right? And Set, of course, was Yo-Yo. And Set kept trying to help him regather the pieces. And he was brave enough to venture into himself. Because when you think about the movie, there was parts of the movie where it felt like it was a dream and it felt like it was reality. And I think that was conscious and deliberate by the director and by the filmmaker and the storyteller, because there is a level of our awakeness or our mind that is always drifting in between sleep and awake, or trance or dream world. And is this really happening right now, or am I really just dreaming this experience? In essence, it's a reminder that we have the power to guide or to direct or shape our destiny. Last thing I wanted to say, second to last, I apologize. Do I have time?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. But the second to last thing I wanted to acknowledge was the fact that those Europeans who were, quote unquote, with the power, who gave them the genius? There was a Black man. And if you look at all things in history, all technology,
civilization of antiquity, the pyramids, and if you look at all the Sphinx, and how we understood the Fibonacci code and the sequence, how we're the master mathematicians. They required, these white people, quote unquote, all this power. It required them to have this black man doing the science. He was a scientist. So that just reminded me of our power, right, and our divinity.
Yeah.
And that ultimately we can free ourselves whenever we're ready to wake up, right? I think the last thing I was going to say was in regards to the revolution that the young lady, tell me your name again. Milani? Right, in regards to the revolution and how there is little joy, not even little joys, but little victories, right? But all those victories that are happening and they come together and next thing you know, everything changes. And that's what revolution is about. And Tyrone, T-Y-R, one, right? There's one in his name. That's a star again. But Tyrone, T-R-Y, is TYRONE. And you can reflect on that how you will, but that's a piece of poetry I just want to throw out there. I'm not going to dissect that one. But I'm done. Thank you.
You had, I have nothing to, I'm like,
I love, thank you for bringing in like our mentality and our stories as far as the Osera set. And I would also add to that, like it's definitely Osset, and she embodied Osset and had a room. Like she was like, she brought it as in one. You know, yeah. She brought it, and she even brought a bit of the second. She brought a bit of the elder woman. And when she had changed into that, when you saw her go into that that coat, I think it was a bright pink coat. She had on like, was it tan? Okay, why in my head it was like bright pink. And she had on bright. Okay. So even going at like she embodied, like she entered a state of wisdom, right? And so you have Osset the mother, you have Hadaru, who sometimes has the image of being youthful and sometimes there's a temptation to keep women at this stage of like youthful, almost babiness. But it's really the beauty of when she entered almost like that elder stage, that she got into that wisdom, she grew some gray hairs, right? That's what happened when she, when she was trying to figure this boxing out. But I also want to say, like, when you look at like how does this happen in every city, because we didn't meet Tyrone to the end.
I know.
Tyrone was at the end, the person who realized that they're looking on TV, they're like, yo, is that you, Tyrone? And you see him like, so sometimes, one thing my dad taught me, he's like, mathematics is a story. And everything, the beauty of life is about how do you make balanced equations, right? So how do you always balance your equation? Make sure that the left and the right side are balanced. Sometimes the imbalance is just not realizing that you don't even realize you in an equation. Somebody got you in an equation as a variable. You are a whole variable. And they doing something constantly from city to city that is, they just doing algebra. You made to do calculus. But they got you in an algebraic equation constantly solving for the same as y. And you have yourself in your mind always being a variable where somebody can put another number or integer and it changes your equation. And sometimes we don't want to acknowledge we're an equation. So what we see is when people be like, yo, I think these people straight up trying to play me and I'm playing with it. So that's what it was when people were like, I didn't even know I was being played.
That's the whole.
I didn't even know. It's the same thing every city, it's the same equations. And I'm letting their equation be balanced. So what do I need to do to get this thing to be a calculus? I'm trying to draw ellipses, when you drawing these fancy shapes, you need another kind of math, you need some trig. I'm not an algebraic equation, so how do I step up my equation? What do I need to do to actually tap into what I'm supposed to do? The final thing I want to say is the realization, listen, every single generation of Black people in this country, there has been something set and designed to eliminate us. So when we look at anybody who has survived these constant intergenerational eliminations, they deserve to be revered. I don't care if they're a crack addict on the corner. I don't care if it's the drunk man, the drunk elder that nobody was listening to. If their family did something that allowed for them to survive, you need to at least pause and listen to them. And not because they're a descendant of whoever, and not because their mama and their daddy is so-and-so, because they are black in this system that is designed for their whole family to be eliminated, and yet here they are with you in a word. So you might want to listen. And so we need to value that. We are the only people that 50 years out of our oppression, I started in 1960, and I'm not talking about the end of slavery, 50 years out, if you look at what we did from 1968 to now, there is not a people that has been through the same kind of oppression for as long as they were. It takes twice as long as you were oppressed to get to where you actually started. That's an 800-year game. We've been 50, 60 years in. So we need to think, give ourselves a little bit more credit, give ourselves a lot more love, be ignited by the math that we are, understand it is a trick bag, you know what I'm saying? And change up how you want the equation to be balanced to you and your family. And it might not look the same as somebody else's family. So.
Amen, Ashe. You know you definitely coming back, right? Because you're
Sean, because he got it.
and then no, you're speaking my language, because at the begin and the ending, it is self, and then from self is the partnership, and from the partnership is the family. And even if you are single, you haven't met anybody or whatever, you're still your circle, your friendships, things like that. That's very important. It's very important. Okay, is there?
I had something else.
Oh, okay.
Well, at the Harleen,
So-
then I'll bring the mic.
Okay.
So my name is actually Tyrone.
Oh, that's right.
But what I want to say is that systematically, as a people, we've been taught to see the worst of ourselves. In church, you're a sinner by nature. We've been taught this. Even in Islamic faith, they talk about what is haram, and they got so many things that's haram that are so natural. And in the culture, we've been taught to look for the worst of each other. Look for the worst. And I think that in order to turn this whole situation around, that we have to look for the best. Like I was raised in a foster home. And I used to see my foster father work from sun up to sundown to take care of his family. But the narrative was that black men ain't, we ain't nothing. I've seen it, that we just turned the whole narrative to speak to the worst of who we are. And if we shift it to speak to what is the best of who we are, we can look for the best, and we can be the best, and we can receive and give the best. And I think that's the saving grace, that we start doing and looking for and being the better of who we are.
Okay, thank you. That's true. Now, I love both of my dads, my stepdad and my bio. But you are true. I have seen it and I've heard it.
Okay, I just want to say something real quick. The piece where he kept saying the old man, and he was pouring that liquor, it was like libations.
Come on,
He had
now.
libations, so
Yeah, I forgot about
that one kind of hit me like, this guy represents the ancestors,
Absolutely.
and he pouring libation every time you see this guy, but he not really listening to what he's saying. The guy's dropping like wisdom. He says about he going to the Wizard of Oz once again. But you know what I'm saying? What he was saying was dead on. Because and we watched the movie, the beginning of it yesterday once again. We said we gotta watch it again. We didn't watch the whole thing, but when the guy was walking down the street, he was kind of falling and this, and the van was coming up, driving all the ready to come pick him up. That was Fontaine. Yeah, blood on his shirt. The guy was stumbling with a bullet hole in his shoulder. She saw it. I said, oh, is that? We had to rewind the joint. It was like, oh, that was Fontaine. And they picked him up and took him to the house. So the other thing I was thinking about is they kept going in the elevator, and which way did they go? Down.
Come on now.
So on a metaphysical tip, he was going to his subconscious mind.
Right.
He was going deep into, you know what I mean? Because one of them got to represent like his ego, like different aspects of himself.
Yeah.
And also, every time he get killed, death and rebirth.
That's right.
He's dying, so in the rites of passage mode, he's going through, he's dying, his old self is dying, he's being reborn every time. Until he finally meets, you know what I mean, almost like an ancestor. He's meeting like an elder who, from maybe his grandfather's father, this is what happened with his people. And he's trying to break it down in history to him, like, yo, you wasn't even around when Ronnie got killed. That was my little brother. And he was like, what? He was like, I'm gonna tell you what actually happened. He got shot through the shoulder. The same place Fontaine got shot. You see what I'm saying? So it was like he was breaking it down to him. So sometimes we just listen to this thing, Yaki Awakened, he was talking about epigenetics. And he asked the question, do you think a person can have a ailment or even a blessing coming from their generation before? And things get passed down. Of course, in epigenetics, it's saying for sure. You know, the hurts, the pains, the fears, even from generations ago, is passed down to the youth. So they say in the Bible, it says you can be cursed. If your father did something, or your grandfather, it can go down to the great grandchild. A so-called curse. We know what that is. That's just that energy of, you know what I mean? That person's still being affected by what their people did. It's still in their DNA. So kind of that whole homing thing in their DNA is kind of can go a little deeper. You know what I mean? Yeah, so. Yeah, I'm done.
I think he's a panelist.
Look, if y'all like this, we can do some more of this. But I definitely, ancestral, we have some ancestral pain, we have an ancestral illness and things like that, but we don't have to keep it. It comes with diet. Like, I'll tell you very personally, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had no idea where that gene came from because it doesn't run on either side of my family. But I had to heal my own heart because it was on the left side, right next to my heart. You know, and so those were ancestral heartaches that had just built up and came through and came through and came through, and it became a tumor. Hello,
Hello. I just wanted to, when I was coming here, I was watching, so I was plugged in. And I heard, I'm not sure, Milani touched on the mother, but I wanted to say something about that. Because I noticed that there were no mother presence in the movie, really. The little boy, where was his mother? And then Fontaine kept going to the door, but she would say, oh, I'm watching my stories, or I'm doing something. And so it kind of struck me like, I guess the image was our children were programmed that we're not available. Like, the stories are more important.
Right.
Something else is more important than us really checking on our children. And he was so programmed, he wouldn't even go, you realize, like, he could open that door a long time ago, but he never opened the door. And I think if you look at each city, like, I guess they were saying it's the hood, right? Right. So you hear the stories of young Black men and women being raised by single Black mothers who were not home because they had to work 2, 3, whatever jobs. So it's kind of like a knowledge that the mother wasn't going to be there. She was either at work, or if she was too tired when she got home from work to deal with her kids. That's why the door was closed. Like, you know what I mean? That's why he wouldn't go through the door, because he was like, oh, she was tired, I'm not going to bother her. So that really it kind of like struck me like we have to start telling different stories of Black women, Black mothers with their children, especially their sons. You know, I'm a mother of a son, and my relationship with my son is very important to me because I'm raising a Black man in America. And I had to find a way to relate to my son. Not that I wasn't tired or, because I got 4 children, I'm by myself, so I do have a lot going on, but you still got to make your children a priority. And I think the absence of that in the movie was really clear.
Yes, and that was the reason why basically that, to me, I always think about the trilogy, right? When I think of the trilogy, I think about Kemet, the trilogy of Kemet, and why pyramids were so sacred to them. That pyramid is mother, father at the foundation, right? The point here, mother, father, and they have a foundation, and then you got the ascension, them rising together, becoming one to create a child. But when that foundation is whoosh, but when that foundation is kicked from underneath their feet, right? Through chattel slavery, through the Ma'afa slave trade, through systematic white supremacy and but however you want to classify it. But it was strategically designed to separate the family. That's why I really revere and honor the fact that you are acknowledging the importance of the family constellation, because that is our backbone. So if the mother and father isn't present, of course we can be tricked. A child can be tricked easily, right? A child can get caught up into the program, they can go into trance so easily. So when I saw all those individuals, the adults in basically the underdeveloped mindset in adult bodies throughout the movie, I just reminds me of how important it is to be present, how important it is to have mother, father. If you don't have mother, father in the community, in your house, to go in the community and make sure that you secure that for your children. So I think all of these symbols and stories throughout the film was a reminder that we need to make sure that our family units are strong, period. Listening to our children, being there emotionally for our children, and putting down the devices. I mean, I feel like there's just so much time being spent at looking at our phones, scrolling on Instagram, and it's not enough emphasis being placed on how are we going to cultivate these young ones to continue our legacy. And then, do we have a legacy? Is the other part. What legacy are we planning on leaving behind? So that's what I would like to say. And try one means try one, try unity. And that's the power of fighting back, coming together as a unit. That's the true revolution. No, I appreciate it.
I want to offer also this another aspect of the mother motif in the film. I think also the fact that he kept checking on his moms was part of his own pacification. Like it was like, as long as he knew his mom, if he could hear his mom, she was okay. You don't need no food. You don't need nothing. Okay, I'm good. I don't have to worry about her. Let me just be out here. So it's just another angle of pacification of the clone.
Yeah, I really cool, because they did not grow up until they realized they were not there.
Right. Yes.
Hold on, just 1 second, I'll put it.
Yeah, but yeah, that they did. I think that's a phenomenal point to maybe explore more. I don't know whether now or another time, because there was a pacification of self, and even how like they did not go into action until the pacifiers and mothers, so they were not being pacified. And there is something that a lot of times we're taught that we're supposed to pacify, we're supposed to fix everything for you, right? And then without letting sometimes. You gotta fall and you gotta figure it out. I'm not gonna figure it out for you. I'm not figuring it out for everybody, right? Go figure it out. But we don't do that until we're in a hospital bed, or we can't. A lot of time, or we got cancer. And so a lot of times, even with how we raise our son, it comes from a space of not giving them chance to not be pacified. So I think that's deep. And then I just wanted to add one thing to what she said about the family unit, like solidified that. Not only just the mother and the father, we are not built, even when there's two people in the house, we're not built to do this without our aunties and our uncles and our grandmothers and our aunties. In DC, I'm from Baltimore, I went to DC. We have about 12 families. We all ended up pregnant at the same time. So it's like 32 kids now, right? So my daughter's 11, the oldest one, I think she's 21. She's 19. The youngest, somebody is now pregnant with a whole other baby. So we have like a voting block in the same community. But I would have never entered that kind of community, right? If I wasn't just landed in it. But that kind of community has been the stabilizing factor for me. It doesn't, for me as a single mom or not, it doesn't matter, I have community. And even if I wasn't, even the ones who are not single as a mother or father, they still require a level of support from everybody else. It's not, we're not designed to just do mother-father even. We're just not, and I think that we have to rethink the nuclear family even, and we have to rethink what family looks like for us. That's why my work in the Family Arts Museum is like, what does it mean for us to be family? And we have to really revisit that because some of the methods that we're buying into has been a part of what happened. Because when crack hit, I remember I was in Baltimore, we went from being able to go, somebody knock on your door, you go on your bike, you go around the neighborhood, your big cousins with you down the street. That was one summer. The next summer, you couldn't go off your block at the beginning of the summer. By the end of the summer, you couldn't get off your steps. By next summer, you couldn't go outside. That's what happened in the city. And it wasn't just because, and there were a lot of nuclear families. But when you have something to destroy people, if you have a nuclear family and it's only two parents, if one of them gets taken out, what happens? So.
Many blessings. So I love this conversation. I noticed one of the things I really liked about the little boy is he was really using some, I guess I'll call it a more African style of talk therapy, of like maintaining somebody's humanity and pulling them out of their kind of a funk and kind of sitting on them, kind of like not letting them just get away with that. And he had the resources. He knew where to get. He had juice pouch, so look who's not going to be hungry, So he had his entertainment, he had his juice pouch, he knew his way around. So I appreciated that, that hope that was in the next generation. They were finding a way. That's how I saw it. And I think another one of the things that came through that was spoken of a couple of times is with when we properly marshal emotions. And so that community, but I love this multiple consciousness of yourself plus yourself plus yourself. And so if we take those things and we move them out of the movie or the way it was being projected, I think the sister said on the outside, but then you have the inner, the you, then the you that's seeing you, then the you that's seeing you, evaluate you. And so you flip that whole thing to the other level. So, but those were, and then when they did decide to ride, then again, you have a group mindset and a group consciousness. So I think sometimes being aware that that's how we move, that we have these options, that when something is out there, everybody does feel it. And so if we're principled and controlling it, then, we can drive those emotions where we want them to go. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, we are past 8 o'clock, so we are going to close it out. I want to give each of my wonderful panelists an opportunity to close out with some thoughts and some ways that people can contact you and follow you, because you guys are very interesting and add great value, and I'm sure that people that don't know you would like to know you more. Okay? So I will start with you.
I feel like a lot was covered in the audience conversation part, so yeah, it was excellent, and I really enjoyed learning to hear what people had to say. So I will just tell you how to be in contact with me. Anywhere on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, it's the same. My dad actually wanted to name me Melanin, so he got his way. So it's Melanin and the Douglas with 2 S's. My middle initial is N, it's Milani N Douglas, but it spells melanin. So Melanin Douglas with 2 S's on any platform, or if you look up Milani N Douglas. You will find it, and then also the Family Arts Museum. If you want to email, it's melanin@melanindouglas.com. But other than that, I feel like we did a lot, so I'm good.
So first, thank you for inviting me to do this. Milani told me that I needed to see this movie. So that's how I wound up seeing the movie. And then when Kenda asked me to be a part of this, I was like, well, we need to bring Milani into the conversation. So I appreciate you just being, bringing us together. And I appreciate this conversation. Black people never fail when we come together, when we're on one accord. So I'm thankful for this conversation tonight. And the only thing that I would offer is that, we're inspired by art all the time. And I think it's a mistake if we look at how much we talk about just because of this movie, how much we incorporate it into the conversation. I'm not a big believer in any one thing being an elixir or a healing agent, but I believe that art is something that we can rally around. And I don't see why it would be a bad thing for us to have further conversations about this film. Because obviously there's a lot of levels and a lot of layers. Because we all recognize what was going on. Anybody who's in denial about the reality or the possibility of what happened in that movie, that's a mistake. So I would encourage us to maybe have further conversations about this film. But in order to contact me, just go on Facebook, Sean Yo's. My website is SeanYosWrites.com. Oh, my name, yeah.
Yes.
My name is SEAN, last name Yos, YOES, SeanYosWrites.com. Like I said, hit me up on Facebook. Get on the phone.
Well, I want to thank my panelists, and I want to thank my audience for my first grown folks conversation in like a long time. It's a great turnout. So humbly thankful. Thank you. And hopefully we will be doing this more often. I was going to do them first Fridays. We might run some more, talk about some different topics. So we're going to talk about film. We're going to talk about love and relationships, and that's a favorite one. Current events and things that matter to you. And if, again, you don't know me, my name is Kenda Bell. I am a coach, author, a host, amongst other things, but I really love just connecting. I really do. And this was a great experience, and I thank you all. And if you want to follow me, my name is Kenda, Kenda, Bell, Bell, and that is my name on everything: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, but I don't know to be on Twitter because they done changed it to like a black X or something or another. I don't even know what's going on anymore. So I was like, I don't know what's going on with that, but that is me. You can find me by that name. I have a website also, KendaBell.com, and I'm also the partner of this wonderful man, Cynthia Powell. This is my husband that's helping me. And we have a company called Sacred Opportunities, where we support couples and singles as well to learn how to be more mindful, to enjoy life, and enjoy themselves in a more meaningful way. And hubby wanted to share something before.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank all of you for coming. Just to give a little background with me and Kenda, when we met, I met her as the Joy Factor Mama. You know, she has a Joy Factor system, a wonderful system. She's the embodiment of joy in my eyes. And I had something called Raise the Level Mandate. And we merged the two together when she and I came together, and we had a baby. Not a human baby, but the baby that we had is called Sacred Opportunities. And so it's our business that we're doing, and it's the love of our life. It's our combined life missions. And Sacred Opportunities is about making sure that we take advantage of each sacred opportunity every day. The opportunity to love, to grow, to heal, to laugh, to learn, and to have fun. And so with Sacred Opportunities, we have 4 pillars. We got the social engagement pillar, which is grown folks conversation is an aspect of that. We also have the spiritual elevation pillar, which she and I are teaming up with my longtime brother Jabari and his queen Monica, and we're formulating what we're calling the Ma'at Temple of Elevation. And we're launching that off. We plan on launching that the end of this month, but we'll definitely keep everyone posted. And so that's the spiritual elevation pillar. And another pillar is the self-edification through education. That's when, you know, we're writing books, we're offering courses and retreats that, you know, we definitely want everyone to get involved in. And then we have the 4th pillar, which is the self-care, expansion, and exploration pillar. And that's where we're teaming up with my good brother Kamasi and his queen Avalona. And if you look at the screen right here, you got the Samana Beach adventure. We're joining forces. We've joined forces with Royal Palm Travel. That's Kamasi and his queen. And we're conducting a trip to the Dominican Republic, November 14th. I'm sorry, November 12th is my birthday. November 14th to the 21st. And we just want to give you all the opportunity to come and join us in this trip. And if you take the sacred opportunity to write your number, your name, your contact information, email. Yeah, on the sign-in sheet right there, and we can tell you more about this trip that is coming up. And we want to have a meeting, hopefully on Zoom, this coming week, where we'll discuss some details about the upcoming trip. And so I just wanted to thank you all again for your brilliant assessment.
Yeah.
You know, y'all really some movie scientists, you know, the way y'all analyzing these things.
Yeah.
You know, but I really appreciate the deep level perspective. So now I want to, you know, I kept falling asleep on the movie because that's just what I do. It don't matter what movie it is, I'm always gonna fall asleep because I get real comfortable. But now y'all got me wanting to go back now and really dissect this movie, and I guess I'll have to watch it standing up or something. I can't be too comfortable. But again, thank you all for coming. We plan on doing this every first Friday, having a different, you know, social topic that we want to address. Okay. All right, no, I'm pretty much done. I was just trying to figure out how to close it out.
Okay.
You can go ahead, I'll close it out. What do you want to say?
Oh, all right. So, many of you may know Eartha Harris already. She stepped out for a minute, but it's always making wonderful things happen. So her approach is Taba, or taking a better business approach. And she has the tight-knit organization, and that inspired her to get this building, which is House of Chiefs. And it's not everything that's just tightly scheduled. You're welcome to come here and try out what's next for you. So it's an open opportunity for people to have a place where they can try something, build something, take your podcast. You know, we have Motivational Mondays every Monday now, and that's picking up and taking off. But if there's something that you're interested in doing, somebody could be doing, I think somebody mentioned quilting or something. It doesn't matter, but this is our community space for us to see and figure out what's next for us.
And so, just wanted to put that out.
No, thank you.
Most definitely. As I told you, I definitely wanted to give a shout out to Eartha Harris because she gave me this space to have this wonderful gathering. And I was hoping that I would see her bouncing around. I was waiting, so thank you. I appreciate that. 'Cause I was like, where'd she go? You know, this is like a part of the way that we start decloning ourselves by coming to things like this, where we aren't just talking about, man, the goddess and be mad. We can be mad, but after that, after all the venting, we need to start processing and looking at what has been going on and the best ways to heal ourselves before we really start going to war. That's my opinion. You know? And thank you for coming. Please mingle, socialize, because there might be somebody here that could be your next level, okay? So thank you for coming out and sign up so you can know when we're having our next event. Thank you.